Good evening. Welcome to the March 8th, 2021 Lower Makefield Township Planning Commission meeting. All members are present. We are meeting remotely. First item on our agenda is our approval of minutes from our February 8th meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll do it.
And there's a second by Ross, correct?
Correct.
Any comments about the minutes?
Yep.
Seeing none, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And the minutes are now approved. Our next item on the agenda is the Gomez minor subdivision plan, excuse me. And if you could let in the applicant.
Appearing on behalf of the applicant will be Larry Byrne, who's the design engineer for the project.
Hi, Dan.
Are we still waiting to go public?
We are public.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay.
We're waiting for the applicant to join us.
Hello, how you doing? I'm Larry Byrne. I just joining you guys.
Okay. Thank you very much, Larry. The floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see my clients here, but I'll just handle this on their behalf. Once again, my name is Larry Byrne. I'm a civil engineer. I prepared the minor subdivision plan for the Gomez's. And I'll share my screen with you guys if I can just get to that. Let's see. Okay, I guess do you zoom out? All right, I guess you see the plan there?
Yes, we do.
Okay, that's this is an aerial image of the site in question. It's approximately a 1.9 acre property located on Oxford Valley Road. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Existing single family house located in the front of the lot. And the proposal is to do a minor subdivision of the property and construct one new house in the rear. I want to switch to the site plan. This is the proposed site plan, and it would be subdivided into two lots. Existing houses to remain, and then we're just showing one conceptual house in the rear. Right now would be a single access to Oxford Valley Road through the flag portion, and then the existing driveway for the existing house would remain. There's both lots would be served by public water and sewer. The existing dwelling is currently served by public water and sewer. The plan complies with all the zoning criteria eventually, for dimensions, so there's no issues there. And I guess the main part of the presentation is we did receive the township engineer's review letter dated February 8th, 2021. And I'm not going to go through every item by point. I will say that they were all basically will comply items, relatively straightforward. And, for the most part, I've already revised the plans to address those comments. So there's a couple waivers that we requested on the last page, item 3. And I just would like to go through those waivers with you, or if you had any questions of me, now I could answer them for you. But it's fairly straightforward plan. I can show you the proposed This is the existing features plan. We located all the trees on the property, as well as having the contours, and there's a water course that traverses the rear of the property, kind of cuts right along the rear property line. We are providing the required buffer for that. There is some comments about some minor encroachments into the buffer, which we will address by, removing any proposed grading in that 50-foot strip. And then just to show you, if I can get to it.
Before you move on to the next slide, there's a shaded area between the two houses.
Correct.
And what is that shaded area?
The shaded area?
Yep.
That's existing gravel driveway that's currently on the property. And the proposal is to remove that portion of the shaded driveway. It's a gravel driveway. So we'd be removing that impervious area because it's no longer necessary.
What does it lead to right now? Is there anything back there right now?
No, it's just an old gravel driveway that's been there. You can see it on our plan, the existing or this proposed site plan. And you can kind of see it on the aerial plan. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. Just, oops, try to center it. It's this area here of driveway. It doesn't go anywhere, but it's there. Maybe it served some purpose years ago. But we would be removing this portion of the gravel driveway, the impervious area. And that would be, that's accounted for in our stormwater management calculations where we're installing new impervious area, but we're also removing some of the existing impervious area. So that's accounted for in our stormwater management calculations that were provided to the township the township and the township engineer. I want to switch back to the other plan here that shows our stormwater management facility is this rain garden in the back that is designed for the additional impervious area. And this is a small area of grading within the 50 feet of the water course. So we're going to just modify this grading so we stay out of that 50-foot area. So, like I said, this is the plan. It shows the proposed driveway, the removal of this gravel, and then a conceptual dwelling. Final house has not been, the architecturals of the house have not been done yet. So we're just showing a conceptual. This is probably actually, about the size of the proposed house, maybe even shown a little bigger than what they're proposing.
Joe, were you trying to say something?
I wasn't going to go through the engineer's letter point by point because we pretty much have it all as a will comply. There's a couple waivers that we requested, and I can go through them. Or, I talked to the engineer, Andrew, earlier. He didn't seem to have any concerns or major issues with it. I don't want to speak for him, but I think
when you said it's all will comply, then it's going to address all of the issues that we had. I just want to bring it to the commission's attention that there is public sewer along Oxford Valley Road, and they're proposing, but Oxford, the back of this site drops down from Oxford Valley Road some 12, 13 feet. So they would need a grinder pump on site, and they'll pump sewer out into the main on Oxford Valley Road.
Right. Yeah. This is the plan, conceptual dwelling here. We're proposing a grinder pump, and then we just have a small diameter PVC force main, like 1.25 inches, would run up along the side of the driveway and connect into the existing sewer in Oxford Valley Road. And same with the water, there's existing water, and they would be connecting into the public water in Oxford Valley Road as well.
Jim, you were trying to say something before?
Yes. What size is the conceptual dwelling that you have shown on the plans?
It's 2,400 square feet. That would be the footprint. It's like a 60 by 40 footprint. So that, if it's a 2-story house, it's really almost like a 4,000 square foot house, and it's probably a little bigger than they were thinking. I was talking when they were thinking like around a 3,500 square foot house, but a 60 by 40, I believe, would be, a fairly good approximation of the house. And there's sufficient room within all the setbacks to accommodate this footprint, and even a little larger one if necessary, but I think we should be pretty good with this one.
Did your stormwater account for this size building or something a little bit greater?
Well, I made provisions for slightly more impervious than I'm showing on the plan now. I could go up to like a 5,000 total increase of 5,000 square feet of impervious surface. I did have that noted in the stormwater calculations, that we have a little extra built into it.
So is the lot split essentially equally? So it's about almost an acre each, or?
No, it's, I'll get to show you the areas right here. The lot in the back is a little bigger.
Okay.
That comes out to be about 1.1 acres, and the lot in the front is 26,000 square feet. So it's a little over half an acre.
Okay.
And the one in the back is larger.
And I had a question on this, just on the driveway. When you have a shared driveway like that, how do the two homeowners determine responsibility for maintenance, snow removal, that kind of thing?
It's not a shared driveway.
Oh.
Each lot has its own driveway, private driveway.
Oh.
Here's the existing driveway here for the existing dwelling. They're going to keep that driveway, and then they're going to put in a new driveway down the flagstone portion here.
Now I see.
For the back. So it's not a shared driveway.
I got him. Sorry, I just misread it earlier today.
Jim, is there a, I'm assuming the back of the lot is considered woodlands. Is that correct or no?
Correct.
Okay. So is there a woodlands buffer that needs to be plotted on here somewhere?
Well, we show the buffer here.
Well, that's the water course buffer. I'm wondering where the edge of the woodlands would be. The woodlands would be closer to would be off of the edge of the woodlands is closer to the house than the water course buffer.
Right. Yeah, I have that here. I have this dashed line where my pointer is. That's what we're saying, like, pretty much the approximate limit of disturbance. And then this line here, like the tree line, the little circles, that's like we're saying is the edge of the wood line.
Yeah, that's how most surveyors denote. Conceptually trees anyway. But what I'm wondering, Jim, in terms of our saldo, what's the requirement for any earth disturbance within a woodlands buffer, or any other construction within a woodlands buffer? Because it looks like I don't see a woodlands buffer line marked on the grading and drainage plan. I think that's what I'm seeing here.
Dan, to answer your question, what's required, and I don't see it on this plan, maybe it's on one of the other sheets, is that they need to measure the building setback from the resource protected land. So whatever they're designating as woodlands to be protected, they have to show the setback line, and that's the principal building setback line from that. You could build, you could put a shed, a swing set, do grading right up to whatever your limit of resource protected lands are. And you could actually have trees that you're saving that are not considered resource protected land, because they are just allowed to disturb up to, I think, 25 or 30% of the woodlands. So
Yeah, I was just looking at that. We have a summary table on the existing features plan here that shows, we're permitted to disturb 30% of the woodland protection. Here is 70% protection, so we would be permitted to disturb up to 30% of that. Now, the plan does show, a little bit of disturbance, and that's really just comes out to be this little area here where I was showing the grading for the rain garden, but we're really not even taking out any trees in that location because I designed it specifically to avoid these trees here. So these trees where my pointer is on both sides aren't being disturbed.
So on that rain garden, where's your discharge location? Are you discharging to I forget what stream that is, to the stream, or are you discharging, do you have a discharge pipe? How are you approaching that?
It's a small diameter pipe coming out of the rain garden. Let me slide over here. This is the rain garden in the backyard, and it was situated there because it's in currently, which is a lawn type area, and also that's generally where the water from the site goes in that direction. So we were going to put the rain garden here, and then this is just a small diameter overflow pipe that would discharge at this location, and this was just a little grading to drain it to the water course. So we were going to keep this area undisturbed, but based on the comments, we're going to pull this back a little bit to keep out of that 50 feet.
And Andy, are you concerned at all about? Sorry, Tony. Andy, are you concerned at all about with that discharge any channelization that might impact the trees at all? I don't know what species of trees are out there, what their root systems look like, and what the flows would be, but I'm curious about those issues since it is wooded.
The overall grade is like 5% in that area. So, and the fact that this is, discharging by gravity, it's an underdrain underneath the rain garden, and then an overflow from the rain garden. There might be a little bit of head pressure from the overflow, but you've got the spillway there. So I don't have it in front of me. Larry, do you know what the elevation difference is from the spillway to the top of the overflow pipe?
Yeah, I have it on I think I got a detail on this plan here.
Is it like 1.5 feet or something like that?
Yeah, it's minimal. I think it's
It's
the bottom of the basin is 139 elevation, and then the top of the riser so 140. So it's less than a foot. It's only 9 inches. 0.75 would be the overflow.
It would be 9 inches over top of the riser before it starts coming over the spillway, and so once the water starts draining away, there's enough erosion protection matting. It's spread out wide enough. The slope downgrade is gradual enough where I'm not concerned with any kind of erosion coming out.
Is there a level spreader or something like that coming off the pipe? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they're going to have an energy.
Yeah,
they'll have an energy dissipator at the edge of the pipe, even then, it's a 12-inch pipe that's only draining a 4-inch under drain. So
Yeah.
I don't know that it's going to come out with enough flow to cause erosion.
And the last one, you mentioned it's how many feet from the top of the bank of the stream is it?
Well, it's going to be 50 feet. It's the required buffer. So
Yeah, right now, the pipe is a little bit more than 50 feet away, but we were showing some proposed grading there. So I'm going to pull it back so we're not doing any grading in that 50-foot area.
Because Andy, are you referring to an LMT buffer, a township buffer? Or are you talking about the state buffer?
Yeah, the DEP buffer too.
Okay, that's what I was going to make sure it was the 50-foot of assumed floodway here.
Right.
There's no floodway study that was done for this one, is there? No,
this isn't even a studied creek. This isn't.
No, yeah, it's an unnamed tributary to Broad Creek.
I got you. Okay.
There's no floodplains delineated or floodways associated with this watercourse.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually this is Brock Creek here, so it's not an unnamed tributary. It's actually Brock Creek.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not. It's an unnamed tributary.
This is probably an unnamed trip. Yeah, because Brock Creek, correct me if I missed, Brock Creek's a little further back, right?
Yeah, it's further back. I can maybe go back to that aerial plan. I don't know.
I'm looking at the FEMA MSC site.
Right.
That's what I was scratching my head because I heard you talk about the water course, but it doesn't show up on the FEMA site.
No, it's not. Right. The water course is like a ditch that comes down through here a little bit. And Brock Creek is actually all the way over here.
Yeah.
Where my pointer is. So we're pretty far away. We're more than 400 feet away from the Brock Creek, which is down here.
It does show up on the PA Streams website, so which generally means that it gets perennial flow, but it's not. Yeah,
I got you. It's more about the drainage area too, in terms of how they regulate the stream. But it's a 50-foot setback is good, just to be safe. Okay, so I'm sorry.
That's perfectly all right. It's enlightening for all of us. So everything else was will comply at this point?
Yeah, well, we went through the engineer's letter and most of them were some drafting items that we took care of. I did note the waivers.
Why don't we talk about those?
Yeah, let's talk about those.
Okay, well, the listed 3 waivers. The first was just a paperwork issue with the township that we didn't have to submit 25 sets of plans. This was recommended by Jim. He said the township doesn't need 25 sets of plans, but technically it's a waiver because it's in the SALDO.
We would support that waiver.
Right. And then the other 2, just a waiver from having to provide sidewalk along this little 80-foot wide section of Oxford Valley Road. And then to not require an additional street tree along Oxford Valley Road, because we already have a couple trees out there, and then we have the one driveway here, and then we're going to have another driveway there. So really not any place to put a street tree. So we're just asking for the waiver. There's another potentially 4th waiver. I didn't list it, but I was thinking about asking about it, was the need, do we have to identify the species of the trees that are, I guess, standing alone or being taken out? Because I don't know if it means anything to know the species or not. I just want to save the client a little time and effort. So that they were the waivers that the 3 were like previously requested in the letter. And then when the engineer's letter came out of this other one about identifying the trees by species, I was just thought we could ask for a waiver from that too.
Okay. Larry, you said that there were some trees that were on site that were dead, and those were part of the ones being removed.
Yeah, there's a couple trees out there that are in fairly bad shape. I don't really have any pictures to show you, but you can see that there's some trees that aren't the best. Even though I was kind of zoom in a little bit on this aerial, there's a couple trees in here. The one tree here is dead. There's a few small trees along where the driveway is going to go that are going to come out. Now, these trees here, we're going to save them, but there's a couple trees like right here that have to come out. But the rest of it's all this lawn area. And as I showed you before, we did locate all the trees in the back here, and we're really not touching any of them.
And the tree along Oxford Valley stays, that the new driveway doesn't interfere with that?
Yeah, it's right there. I think we're good with that. Yeah.
So let me, Jim or Andy, help me understand the requirement for, we have a specific, for development, a specific street tree requirement. It's not tied to the other tree ordinances or anything that just says if you develop a piece of property, you should line the street with trees. Is that essentially what that is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess is so all we're talking about, it's not a requirement for replacing trees. It's just simply a specific requirement because of the constraints of the project. He's asking for a waiver. Like,
Correct.
so it's a different discussion than some of the other tree discussions we've had. And okay, I think I understand that.
And the property frontage is about 108 feet. So I think you need a street tree every 30 feet on average. They have one tree just above or to the east of the proposed driveway. And there's another tree that's set back somewhat, a little bit off of that along the existing driveway, that 18-inch tree. And then by ordinance, they probably would need to put in one more tree. I do see there's a utility pole on the property in that area. So I think the wires run along that side of the road, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's true. There is utility pole there, and they have the existing water and sewer facilities cutting through there as well.
And one other thing I might add, the fourth waiver that Mr. Byrne had mentioned is item number 17 in the Remington-Vernick letter. And that would be, if the planning commission would entertain it, would be section 178-28 AA2. Identify the species.
So this is,
How many are there that you're taking? This is only the ones you're taking out, correct?
and it's 15 inches in diameter or bigger. So those are pretty large trees.
Yeah, if it's only the trees that you're removing, it might only be one tree.
Yeah, well, I guess if that's the criteria, then, I don't know, we really need to, maybe the only trees that are coming out are the ones over here by the existing shed a little bit. I thought maybe I misunderstood it. I thought it was a requirement to identify all the trees on the property.
Andy, what are the requirements of what I'll guess is I'll call the existing conditions plan or a natural resources map? Does that require all the trees or just ones?
Yeah, I believe that requires all the trees greater than 15 inches in diameter.
Okay. I think that's what Mr. Burns referring to here, right?
But let me.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how the ordinance is reading. I maybe I'm mistaken about which trees needed to be identified by species. It's just that it would be, a lot of trees to identify, and I don't know how to identify trees.
Well, it says, so the species and size of large trees standing alone, mature trees with a diameter of 15 inches or greater measured 4 feet above grade level. So woodlands as defined herein and the location of any unique plants or other vegetation.
If you read to the end of that paragraph, though, it does say trees need not be individually identified in wooded areas declared to be set aside for undeveloped resource protection land. So in other words, the wooded area in back, when they are not proposing to disturb it, they don't have to identify the species of trees. It's just the larger trees that are standalone outside of those areas, or ones proposed to be removed in what would be classified as a woodland area. Those are the ones that would need to be identified.
That makes
sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Jim, would he have to identify those? I'm just looking, he's got one big one up there at the top of the top middle of the plan. He's got it on the screen. It's 60 inches. You get another 30, 48, 36, and 30. Would he have to identify those under that scenario?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know we're getting into spring now, so it might not be that terribly difficult to identify the trees, the species, although that's something we could do during construction.
Okay. I'll mention this tree here is this, it says 60 inches. I think that's kind of like a multi-trunk tree. It's not like one huge 60-inch tree.
And, theoretically, the commission could issue a partial waiver to have them identify, whichever trees that they want on the plan.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The waiver request was based on something that we thought might be a little bit more encompassing than what we're actually talking about. Because what we're actually talking about, I mean, up on the top of it, I see 5 or 6 trees, and down at the bottom that are even possible, and then down at the bottom there might be another, 6 to 8. We're not talking about a lot. And so not all of them are going to be 15 inches or bigger, correct?
Correct.
So.
Adrian, I think it's really just, and Mr. Byrne, correct me if I misspeak here, but it's just finding a separate expert that is qualified to identify the trees and put them on the plan. It doesn't sound like he has someone like that on staff.
Well, I have just an LMP question then. Isn't there something that ESC could help them out with?
Well, they could give him some free consulting work, I guess, but I don't know if they would. They wouldn't want to commit them to that.
I know when I've had Ricks into my yard, they've been able to identify every one of my trees in about 3 minutes.
Oh yeah, this is not for someone that knows trees. This is not a heavy lift.
Yeah.
I
know most of the trees, and I could pick out the oak and maple trees.
Yeah.
It's all right. We'll just skip the waiver then. It's just identifying the few larger trees that are standing alone. Yeah, we'll take care. I was just concerned that there's over like 100 trees in the back there, and I thought you wanted them all identified, and that would have been
I'd be more amenable to you on that one.
Yeah.
I just
you're not even going back there.
Yeah, our comment says outside the wooded area. So
yeah, okay.
You're essentially talking inside inside that left-hand dark dotted line to the right of that.
Right.
And Jim or Andy, is there a requirement that whoever IDs the trees has to be a certified arborist or landscape architect or anything like that? Just in case he submits something without someone's name that has those qualifications.
No, it doesn't specifically state that.
Okay, just checking.
So, Jim, 2 quick questions. You said you were supportive of the waiver of submitting fewer than 25 sets of plans. What's a good number?
Whatever I asked for them to submit. Basically, for the plans, Andy gets a set or 2 of the hard copies because his review of all the consultants is the most encompassing of every last bit of the plan. And then we have a copy or 2 on file. And then I always request the 11 by 17. So if any commission member or any other board member wants a hard copy in front of them during a meeting, you can have that. But basically, they gave us what we need.
Okay. Is it just separately from this particular application, should the town be considering changing this ordinance to reflect current practices?
Oh, absolutely. And we actually, the planning commission, I think maybe before you were on it, had recommended approval of that. And we just have to circle back around, do a couple of other saldo changes and present that as one package to the Board of Supervisors to amend our subdivision land development ordinance.
Okay. With regard to the sidewalk requested waiver, does the town have any plans on either side of the road with regard to sidewalk? I believe on the other side of the road, at least for a portion of it, there's a bike path, and then I think it comes to a dead stop.
Yeah, the bike path goes all the way from Stony Hill Road and goes all the way to Heacock Road with one gap in front of one property across the street from this property and down to the east. So there's like 150-foot gap in the bike path that would be great to close off.
Okay.
On this side or the other side, Jim?
The other side of the road has the bike path.
Right.
On this side of the road, is there any sidewalk at all?
No.
And do you ever see because my whole thought process on this was if every other property doesn't have a sidewalk, I totally understand the request to not put in a sidewalk. That would be pretty ridiculous. But if we have an ordinance that says any development should put sidewalks, I'd hate to waive this, and then all of a sudden some years down the line, all of a sudden we have another 100-foot gap of sidewalk that we wish we had.
I'm going to switch out.
Actually, looking
Manor
at the
Care has a big sidewalk, but
looking at the aerial photo, just to the west of the property, in front of the subdivision where Lenape Lane is, it looks like they have sidewalk in front of that property, and then you have a gap of about 280 feet before you get to this property. So actually, it would kind of make sense maybe to put this section of sidewalk in, and if something's done in the future, you could connect that little 280-foot gap, or accept a fee in lieu of the sidewalk. And we've now in the township budget set aside a separate fund for these fees in lieu of sidewalk. So we have the money in a dedicated fund so that when opportunity arises to make connections, we have it sitting there and not just commingled with the rest of the general fund. So that's another alternative.
yeah. And Jim, there's a pretty good length of sidewalk in front of the Manor Care facility in the opposite direction, right?
That down here, this way.
Yeah. So you have, they don't connect, but you have a pretty good length of sidewalk in front of Manor Care and the Emerald Drive entrance to the Lenape Lane development.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now that's about a 600-foot gap between Manor Care and this property.
So, in terms of letter of the law, like I don't have an issue with not putting sidewalk in there today, but I sort of, my head, given what we're learning here, is kind of what Jim was just describing with the doing something where there's at least a hope of if we get to this point as a township, there's the ability to do this, and we don't end up with another one of these gaps that we do have around our township because we didn't ask these questions in the past. So I'd be, I think I'm probably flexible on this in the way that Jim was talking and finding a way that might work for the township when we're ready to do it. And they don't have to build a standalone 100-foot sidewalk right now. But I don't know if I'm inclined to say we can just say blanket, don't have to do it, and then that's done.
I could maybe make a suggestion too. I've seen this done in the past where we would note on the plan that the sidewalk is not waived, but it's deferred to a future date. And it's noted on the plan that if in the future sidewalk is required, then they have to put it in. don't know if you've ever used that in Lower Makefield Township, but it's so you're not permanently waiving the requirement, and you're not just taking a fee, but it's just deferred to a future date. Or I could just we could just skip this waiver too and put it in. It's up to you guys.
Do we know the approximate cost of that sidewalk? What it would cost?
If I could, let me get out my plan and my calculator. We have about 108 feet times, what is it, 4 foot wide sidewalk we'd have to put in?
5 foot. 5 foot wide.
5 foot, so 108 times 5. It's 540 square feet times, I don't know, what sidewalk go for?
Usually around $5 to $8.
$15, say. It's probably about $8,000, maybe a little more.
Jim, is that the fee that we would take then? Or is that just a different type of fee that we would take? A lesser amount?
Well, that would be the fee we would take.
Okay.
Costs go up. I'm in favor of just put the sidewalk in. If we, this way it's there. If you wanted to put it in down the road, it would be more expensive. And there are enough spots on that side of the road where there's sidewalk that it makes sense to start to fill them in now.
Has the sidewalk deferment option that was suggested ever been used in LMT?
I'm not aware of that option.
I don't recall doing that either. And so that, and on paper, that
I like the idea, but I'm in practice and not having a regular process to go back when something like that's being built and say, oh yeah, these people are on the hook, and then how, like in home sales and stuff like that. How do you deal with all that when?
Right, there's an issue of future financial responsibility.
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to, like I mentioned, these deferments. It doesn't usually come about when you're doing large scale residential subdivisions. The developer either puts the sidewalk in or whatever. They usually utilize for these types of small subdivisions or minor subdivisions where there's one person on the hook for it or two people on the hook, in this case. And then that way, if it's deferred, when they buy the property, they get a title report. They know that there's this potential in the future that they have to put in the sidewalk. It doesn't matter to me, really. I mean, the owners, I'm sure, would, if it's required mandatory improvement, they'll put it in.
Steve, if I may, for the board, in addition to a note on the plan, when the legal description for the proposed new lot or both lots are drafted, you can add a condition as well that either one or both property owners at some future time may need to install a sidewalk in accordance with the note as set forth on the final record plan. So, it's not just on a plan, but it's also a restriction as part of the deed and the legal description of the properties.
If you go in, it could be put right into the deed too. Sure. It's like I said, it's for these types of situations, we usually would just ask for the waiver for the sidewalk. I understand there's, issues beyond just a simple waiver too. So
I'll just say that I might be in the minority among the planning commission. I'm less in favor of installing the sidewalk as a standalone piece. I think that it's unsightly compared to additional lawn and additional green space if it doesn't serve a functional purpose. And if the property's at 1436 Oxford Valley Road and the property in between 1442 and 1436, I don't have the number in front of me, will never install sidewalks, or if it's such a remote possibility that they'll ever install sidewalks, I'm inclined to not want it to be there, especially in light of the fact that there is the walking path across the street, allowing for easier commutes should pedestrians or bikes need to access Oxford Valley Road. Just throwing that out there as a voice.
What do you think about putting money aside, requiring money put aside?
I'm more okay with that.
I mean, I think right now I'm okay with putting it in, although my brain is kind of telling me I agree with Ross a little bit on that. In the short term, that's going to be a little goofy. The money giving the township money is probably the easiest answer. And if the fee in lieu of is not, satisfactory, if based on what Barbara just said, if you put the note in the deed and everything, and they have to do it when the time comes, and if Jim thinks that the township can actually, realistically on little minute details like that, when things come down the road, that they can realistically follow up on that, I'd be okay with adding the note as well. I'm just a little worried that our township might lose track of it.
I'm not clear, how much of that side of the road is with no sidewalk? Is it?
I guess to the bottom of the screen or to the west, it's about 285 feet without sidewalk. Those two houses that are before that subdivision.
Is this it, Jim, right here? There's no sidewalk in this stretch?
About 285 feet to the top of the screen or to the east of the property. That one property that's right there where the cursor is right now, that is about 672 feet, I think I said.
So this whole area from the red mark of the corner of the property up until Leader Nursing Home, Manor Care, there's no sidewalk in this stretch at all, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So
there's really no sidewalk anywhere between Manor Care and this development down below here, right?
Yep. So, and that's all I'm doing. The more we're talking about this now and looking at this on the photo, I think I agree with Ross more now that I don't think we should require them to build it, but give them the option of, rather than building it, just give the cost of the sidewalk to the township, and I'm just trying to look out for the township, because I think everyone that lives here knows that in the past, we didn't always do a consistent job in, having sidewalks put in when we developed roads and everything. And it's something that I know board of supervisors throughout the past, 8 years or so has been pretty actively talking about bike paths and sidewalks throughout the township.
Well, you said there is a bike path on the other side, right? All along here.
Was there a gap there, Jim, at all? I thought you said there was a gap across the street.
Yeah, directly across the street.
It's, not directly across the street, but further down, it's just off the page where you see Collins Grant Court, just past that subdivision. There's one lone lot there without sidewalk. Nope, not there. It's off the screen. That's 150 feet.
Over here?
Nope, off the screen completely, to the bottom of the screen.
Oh, down here.
Into where your text is.
Okay.
Yeah, it might be.
Anyway, I guess that's the point I'm making is that ordinance in my mind is in there to help the township sort of have a plan, have developments, put together a cohesive sidewalk plan. We're not there, not even close to being there. And I would say, there's an option of, while we're not there, you don't have to build it, but there should be something in there for the township to do it when it's ready.
So I think it would be kind of silly to just have the one strip sidewalk there. I think it would be a little more difficult to police a future requirement in a deed to have a future owner install that. So I guess maybe the fee in lieu of installing the sidewalk may be the best route.
I just say something. If it's in a deed, when a title company goes to do its search, they'll pick up on that restriction And generally speaking, unless it's a cash transaction, mortgage lenders are going to want to hold monies set aside to ensure that that's not a requirement. So you're going to have somebody else overlooking that besides the township.
Okay.
But, the truth of the matter is these things fall through the cracks. They fall through the cracks all the time, notwithstanding the best laid plans in the world. So I kind of agree, if we're not going to require it and there is a big gap there, then let's just have the money go into the fund so that there's no problem with this down the road.
And as I stated earlier, the town now has a dedicated fund in the budget for these fees, so it doesn't get lost. In the past, we've taken a lot of fees in lieu of from developers, yet we never seem to have money for a sidewalk because that money was just swallowed by the general fund.
So that option actually falls within the township's current thinking anyway. So.
Yeah. The only thing I would, and I don't know why the owners aren't here. They're not technically savvy, and I guess, but you have to. I guess it's kind of their decision in a way too. If they figure if they're going to spend the $8,000 and just give it away, maybe they would just rather put the sidewalk in front of their property and be done with it.
They'd be well within their rights to do that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. If they're going to have to donate all the money for the actual cost of the sidewalk, they get no benefit out of it. At least this way, if they put it in, they have it there. But then I guess they got to shovel the snow.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, in this situation where sidewalks require, let's say the fee in lieu of or the deed option is used where they're not actually building it, would they still have to put some sort of easement on their property to allow for the sidewalk in the future? Would that have to be written into the property description, the legal description?
Well, there is an ultimate right-of-way that's on the plan that would have enough room to have a sidewalk.
I think wouldn't it be put in this area between the legal and ultimate right-of-way? This sidewalk, I would imagine.
Correct.
And if they put in the sidewalk, who would address not that it's a big sidewalk, but he's designed his stormwater management system for a certain amount of impervious. Does the sidewalk impervious go with the lot, or does that go with the road stormwater management system?
In these situations, since it's technically not, this is how I would handle these in the past in other townships. Any impervious area that's put within that ultimate right-of-way or in the legal right-of-way, we don't attribute to the lot itself, because all the areas and the ratios are measured to the ultimate right-of-way. So if we're putting in some impervious area for the sidewalk, that just drains to the street and the storm system in the street. And we wouldn't be putting any rain gardens in for the sidewalk.
Yeah,
that's how I typically handle them.
I handle it the opposite way with most of the land development plans that I've done, where any impervious that goes on your lot, whether it's a driveway, a house, a road, or something like a path here, you have to address that within the boundaries of your own lot.
That's typically how we handle it within the township as well. And just from a practical standpoint, this lot does slope from the road back to the stream. So, I understand that you could probably slope the surface of the sidewalk towards the road if you wanted to. But from a practical standpoint, we would probably consider that as additional impervious that would need to be compensated for.
So, whether we build it or not, we should probably be designing the stormwater system under the assumption that would be there if it's part of the deed or some other fee in lieu, that you would have to basically plan ahead for that impervious area. Not that it's a huge huge chunk, but you'd want to have that included in your stormwater plan already, because it's, for all intents and purposes, it's going to happen. I mean, for a design perspective, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments about the requested waivers? Okay. There are some other review letters, which I think are primarily subsumed within what we've been talking about, but not everything was covered. So if we could maybe go through those as well. First one just being the Safe Highway Engineering Report.
Yeah, I have the Safe Engineers Highway Report, and it looked like he just wanted us to show the clear sight triangles on the plan. That's a will comply.
Okay, and there was also an issue about a impact fee for traffic.
Yes, if that's an ordinance requirement. That's will comply. Yes.
Okay.
One thing to note on that fee, it looks like they have last year's fee in there, and the new fee is $50 more. That's $2,995.
Okay. Yeah, that's an ordinance requirement. So that's obviously a will comply.
Okay. Fire Marshal gave you the
letter. He didn't have any comments.
no comments, and the EAC's comments look like they were mostly included in what Jim went over, but not entirely.
Mm-hmm. The Environmental Advisory Council or Commission. They have protection of the stream buffer. That's a will comply. We talked about that. I don't think the owners would be willing to put in a conservation easement. It's not mandatory or required, or a split rail fence. But I'm speaking for them. Maybe they would, but I can't agree to that.
Okay. On the tree removal, they wanted to make sure that the trees being removed that are 10 inches or greater are that's being calculated.
Yes, that's yep. That's a will comply ordinance requirement. We can do that. Identify the trees that are being taken out. I think we talked about that. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think there was anything else at this point. Any other review letters?
Well, we did have the Ebert Engineering sewer letter, and the sanitary sewer engineers, and he had a couple comments, and they're all standard will complies too. Planning module, things like that. So adding a couple notes to the plans. So the Ebert Engineering letter of February 12th, 2021, that's all will comply items.
All right, have you submitted to Bucks County Conservation District yet?
Yes. Yeah, we did submit the plan to the Bucks County Conservation District, and we received the adequate letter from them dated October 13th, 2020. The township and township engineer, I guess both of you guys should have received copies of that letter. If you haven't gotten them, I could, email them to you or send them to you.
I'd appreciate it if you emailed it to me.
Sure, no problem.
Larry, was that their completeness review or their technical review?
No, this was the adequate letter for Conservation District.
That's probably for the ENS.
Yeah, ENS.
VSCP, yeah.
Yeah, the disturbance is less than 1 acre, therefore no NPDES permit is required.
Correct. That's correct, yes. Yeah, this is, like I said, it's just the adequate letter just for erosion control. No,
Strictly strictly the SCP, so no additional reviews.
right.
Hey, Larry, I probably should, I don't know if you said this up front, but since you're not the owner, you said you were their engineer. Are you with Eastern Chadro, or are you independent?
Well, I work with Eastern Chadro Associates. Technically, I have my own company. It's LJ Byrne Engineering.
Okay.
But majority of my work, I work with Eastern Chadro.
Okay. Oftentimes we'll get an intro with your name, rank, and serial number kind of thing, your vitals. So I was curious as to where you work and all that setup. That's all.
Well, I've been working with Eastern Chadro since 2008, and before that, I worked at Carroll Engineering for like 20 years.
Gotcha.
And I left Carroll Engineering in like 2005, and I've been independent for the last 12 years. So I like being independent. I don't have to answer to anybody.
I hear you. Except punks like us. And then just for the record, I know you're going to say yes, but you're a civil PE registered and licensed in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my seal is on the plan.
Okay.
Right here.
Gotcha.
Any other board members have any questions or comments?
I think we covered everything.
Hearing and seeing none, does anyone want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion. I just want to make sure we get it right. But essentially, there was only 3 waiver requests, right? That we talked about. One, I'm just trying to make sure we articulate what it was.
So if I can help, Adrian, if the commission were inclined, they could make a motion to recommend approval of the minor subdivision for the applicant Gomez at 1442 Oxford Valley Road, subject to compliance with the conditions as set forth in the Remington Vernick letter of February 8th, 2021, noting that there were 3 waivers requested and recommend that 2 of the 3 waivers be approved, but the waiver as to not require sidewalks be denied, and direct that the applicant either install the sidewalk or pay a fee in lieu of installation of the sidewalk. In addition to recommending compliance with the other review letters issued by SAFE, the traffic engineer, of February 16th, 2021, the Ebert engineering review letter of February 12th, 2021, and the recommendations set forth in the EAC review of February 11th, 2021, leaving the issue of a conservation easement to the discretion of the board and applicant.
That sounds right to me. I'll make a motion for that.
Just a question. Do you have to set forth what that fee would be?
As to, now it's usually calculated in accordance with sale, though. It's the length times whatever the ongoing rate is for the concrete or whatever there's an industry standard rate.
Yep.
Very good.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone lined up for public comment?
There is no public comment.
Okay. Any further discussion by the board on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion passes unanimously. And thank you very much, Mr. Byrne.
Yeah, well, thank you very much to the planning commission for your time and commitment. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank-
Okay. The only other item on our agenda is other business. Does anybody have any other business?
Dessert.
Barbara, did you say you had something or no?
No, I do not.
Okay. Well then, does anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. Jim, our next meeting, you said, I'm sorry, I should have said this before saying we're adjourned, but Jim, when's our next meeting? There was
Not
talk-
sure yet. Either March 22nd or April 12th.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.